Welcome back to Avia, and thank you very much for joining me again. Today we're going to have a short little video to explain to you how training works in the aviation industry. If you want to become a pilot or dream of maybe flying a jet one day, this is the place to start. There's a tendency in the United States to send most children after school into a 4-year aviation degree. There's a lot of degrees that often offer the 4-year plan that include your pilot's license. And that's for kids that want to go onto an airline or move into a more corporate environment, flying for airlines. However, that is not your only route. A lot of people don't like that route, or they're not really cut out for that option in the aviation industry. I want to bring the alternative to you. The alternative that we grew up with, the alternative that still keeps the industry grounded. And what is vital about that you need to understand is that this way you get to experience the industry on the ground. You get to experience how this aircraft gets fueled, how all of the mechanics behind the scenes fit into each other. That eventually is going to be fundamentals in your career. Smaller airports all have flight schools. You need to investigate what works the best for you and look around at the pricing, because these aircraft are sold at a price per hour, which in the United States more or less varies between anything from $110 to $150 per hour. You then pay a fee for an instructor and the fuel on the aircraft. But make sure that if you really want to get into the industry, that you get to experience every single aspect on it. In the video where I introduced myself, I referred to the 172 as being an option for you to train on. This is a typical training aircraft. It's a high wing training aircraft with typically 4 seats. You would do your training on something like this. Your training will consist of a minimum of about 45 hours, and this is something that you need to clear with your flight school. Don't let your flight school convince you that you require 60, 70 or 80 hours. That is not the minimum law. Make sure that you are aware of the amount of hours that requires you to become a certified pilot. In that training, however, you will get things like your instrument rating, your night rating, and eventually go on to doing your conversion onto aircraft with a retractable gear. Most of the training aircraft that you'll initially fly will have a fixed gear. So these are all things that you would go through. But you are able to pay for this as you go along and build towards a career in aviation. You would then go on to doing your commercial pilot's license, for which in America there's a 250 minimum hour of flying. In some other countries, the requirement is only 200 hours. Should you be out of the country and looking at my video from different countries in the world, you are able to take your license and go and do a validation in another country. They would require you to maybe do subjects like air law and just go over meteorology, which is important to do for the local area's weather. Just lost my word there for a second. So those are important things that you would need to do in the new country where you would do a validation. But make sure that you understand how the process works. That is vital. After your commercial pilot's license, you can get the opportunity or make the opportunity for yourself to do your air transport pilot's license. This is often something that is included in the 4-year degree program. However, it is something that you would need to pursue as part of your process in becoming a pilot. Your airline transport pilot's license will equip you to fly for an airline. This is not always the minimum requirement for airlines, as they do employ pilots with only a commercial license with a sufficient amount of hours. But eventually, to get any form of command on the airliner that you would be flying on, that would be a minimum requirement. Once you're completed with your commercial pilot's license and you have a sufficient amount of hours and you're in a financial position to do your conversion training onto bigger aircraft, you might get the opportunity to fly something like what is behind me. This is a typical Citation Jet 1. It's a smaller little Citation, but from there the range of jet aircraft just get bigger and bigger, and whatever opportunities you may get through people that you get to know in the industry, and as your conversion training goes on, you might have the opportunity to become a commercial pilot in the private jet industry. There's a lot of aircraft owners that employ their own pilots, and there's a lot of charter companies that employ commercial jet pilots for these reasons. This is an incredible opportunity for you to see the world, to build more hours in the industry that will eventually, if that is your passion, move you to an airline job. If that is not something that you're interested in, a career in the private corporate jet aircraft industry is something that is always open and very doable in the industry. The industry is definitely growing at a fast pace, and you can ensure that for years to come, or be sure that for years to come, this opportunity will always be available. In closing on training on these aircraft, I'm going to go through a variety of aircraft so you can understand what your training will entail. First of all, behind me again, the 172, your typical ab initio training piston aircraft. Right behind there in the corner is a Piper Malibu. Ideal aircraft to maybe start doing a different engine. You're going to start moving to turbine engine training, and that is typically that you can essentially fly on. But also what's nice about those aircraft is they make wonderful charter aircraft. So once you have your commercial license, that is something that can take you into that industry. Another conversion that you would need to get is something on a lower wing aircraft, and that would either be a Piper or the Beechcraft behind me. That is a great option for you to pursue as well, and a license if you stay in the private industry, that will be really vital to have, because there's so many of these aircraft available in the industry and a lot of private people own them. So if you ever fall into the financial category of owning your own aircraft, that would be a great purchase. As we said, moving on to the Citation 1, your typical entry-level jet aircraft, but great for charter, great for you to build your hours on if you're going to need jet hours. Coming back to the airlines, there might be a minimum requirement with some of the airlines, maybe 500 or 1,000 total time, of which at least 250 might need to be jet aircraft time. This is the ideal type of school that you can come to really have your options open and give you the opportunity to really explore the industry and everything it has to offer. I'm Natasha Reeders for Avia Academy, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.